The Outsider podcast shares the opinions and analyses of Drew Landry. They are his thoughts and his thoughts alone, and do not necessarily reflect every member of his audience or newsletter readers. Now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Drew Landry. And folks, thank you so much for making this the best politics podcast west of I-35 in the Lone Star State. So however, whenever, and wherever you are listening and or watching, please know I'm incredibly grateful for your attention. Don't forget you can watch. There's a video edition of the podcast over there on YouTube. Just type in the Outsider Podcast. Go hit that subscribe button. Hit that notifications bell so you never miss any new content there over on YouTube on the Outsider Podcast. That out of the way. Let's get into today's content. And I only really have one thing, folks. And it's been the big story of the week. And if you live anywhere in Texas, you live anywhere in the United States, and you like sports, I'm not talking about being like a diehard fan. I'm saying just you enjoy it. You have probably have heard something about Texas Tech in the last week or so. And here's the lowdown on all of this. It's surrounds the issue of transfer quarterback Brendan Sorsby. Brendan Sorsby used the transfer portal after he played 2 seasons at Cincinnati, using his last year of eligibility to come play for Texas Tech. And suddenly, in late April, he notifies he has to take a sudden leave of absence because he admits that he is addicted to gambling. Okay? And so he checks himself into a rehab program. And it's interesting, though, that he has called himself this. He actually said this in a May 29th court filing. He acknowledged that he has had a years-long struggle with gambling and even described himself as a compulsive gambler since he was 18. But let's understand some other parts of this situation. Brendan Sorsby started his collegiate career as a redshirt freshman at Indiana University. Folks, this is before IU was really any good. And if you have ever followed IU football, which I'm going to guess a lot of you haven't, it was a lot of hitting mediocrity and then be bad. Mediocre, bad. Mediocre, bad. Their best year to date was, without question, 2025 was that season, the 25-26 season. But before then, 24 to 25, that was their second best season, where they only, they lost maybe one or two games and got beat by Notre Dame in the college football playoff, in like the first round wild card, whatever you want to call it. And the year before that, 2023 to 2024, this is where Sorsby is really making the redshirt freshman year. Okay, he was enrolled at Indiana University. Redshirt freshman. Got to play one game. But this is where the gambling really comes into effect here. It is read here, and this is a great article by Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. And side note, Don Williams is one of the most respected sports journalists in all of Texas, and he's been with the AJ for well over 35 years. Okay, he's been, maybe even 40 years, but he is a pillar of knowledge and a great resource of Tech football, of Lubbock sports, really anything that has to do with a ball. Don Williams has probably reported on it. So he being Don Williams, has this story about the Sorsby drama, and so I'm reading from that piece. I'll link it in the comments. It reads here, while enrolled in Indiana, the total number of impermissible wagers attributed to him being Sorsby, was at least 2,900. That counting all legs of parlays, parlays bets separately. Once you include those, that gets at least 8,600. And that totals more than $30,000. He placed 2 straight bets and 32 parlay bets that included at least one leg on the Indiana football team. For instance, total points, covering the spread, that sort of thing. He placed that included 3 straight bets and 11 parlays that included at least one leg of members on the Indiana football team. For instance, a teammate exceeding betting lines for passing, rushing, and receiving. So he thought his team would cover the spread or go beyond the spread, and they would get, or they would go over under the total points, or they'd say that this quarterback would throw for, 250 yards over under, or this running back would go for, over under 75 yards, whatever. That's what we're talking about here. He made those bets. Those are called parlay bets. And then he would bet on his team to either win or lose. And it was always to win. According to him, and the records have shown that he always bet on his team to win. He, being Sorsby, made at least 50 impermissible bets totaling more than $1,400 on the Indiana men's basketball team or individual players, and about 300 bets totaling at least $6,500 on college football games or players not involving Indiana. So that's what he did when he was at IU. He transfers over to Cincinnati for 2 seasons. And while enrolled at Cincinnati, Sorsby provided more than $60,000 to an unnamed individual to fund a FanDuel account that was accessed by him and the other individual to make bets. Sorsby subsequently placed at least 165 impermissible bets. And that counts all legs of parlays and about 500 impermissible wagers on college and pro sports, totaling at least $38,000. On February 10th, 2024, 3 wagers were placed on the shared FanDuel account, the one I just mentioned earlier, on the Cincinnati men's basketball team for a total of $3,500. Sorsby acknowledges placing 1 or 2 of the wagers. From January through September 2024, Sorsby placed at least 10 bets totaling more than $2,500 on college football games or players not involving Cincinnati. So while he's at Cincinnati, he's betting on Cincinnati. More on Cincinnati than teams and players not on Cincinnati. And since enrolling at Tech, the stipulated facts in the filings that he has given to the NCAA, based on limited record development to date, Sorsby has bet solely on pro sports, like the PGA Tour, the NBA, Major League Baseball. In doing so, he spent about $5,000 to an unnamed individual to make bets on his behalf. Let's make no mistake about this, folks. Um, Brendan Sorsby announced in mid-April about his I'm sorry. In mid-March, the NCAA learned of Sorsby's gambling and notified Tech about it on April 14th. Tech announced about 2 weeks later that Sorsby was taking leave from the team to enter a month-long inpatient treatment program for gambling addiction. Simultaneously, news broke that the NCAA had started an investigation into Sorsby's gambling, long a prohibited activity for players and college athletic employees. Sorsby's inpatient treatment took place in Goodyear, Arizona. He enlisted the services of Kessler, who is the attorney from New York, who filed a motion for an injunction on May 18th. They sought to speed up the process, noting that in the event Sorsby was barred from playing college football this season, he faced a June 22nd deadline to apply for an NFL supplemental draft. Later that day, Tech announced that the NCAA, Sorsby, and Tech agreed upon a stipulation of facts in the case and planned to seek his reinstatement. Reinstatement was filed on May 19th. It was denied by the NCAA on May 22nd. Tech filed an appeal on May 29th, and the NCAA denied the appeal on June 5th. And that is what got us to the whole case that brought it to Lubbock. All right, let's just face the fact here. Kessler and a team, a lawyer team that consisted of Ted Liggett, which is a local personal injury lawyer around here. He has these goofy ads and these billboards all around West Texas, trying to get people to contact him if they've been personally injured. And the other one was the Texas House Speaker. So the current Speaker of the Texas House, Dustin Burrows. Those three made up his legal team. His legal team being Sorsby. And so they went to court. They made their arguments in front of a judge by the name of Ken Curry. Now, folks, I want to set the record straight here because I've seen a lot of silliness out there on social media. Social media, these are people not from Lubbock. They're not from Texas. They got the story and they get it secondhand, and then it's the game of telephone. I don't entirely blame them for it. But you can Google things. I don't know if you knew that. Google can actually help you, or DuckDuckGo, or whatever. Yahoo. Okay. These types of search engines can actually assist you in all this to find out what has happened and what hasn't. So, Sorsby's legal team, Kessler, Liggett, Burrows, file an injunction hearing in the 99th District Court. And that 99th District Court in Texas is in Lubbock. And the 99th District Court's judge is an elected official known as Philip Hayes. Now, for those of you who don't know this or may have forgotten this, Texas elects judges. We elect all of our judges. And they're all in partisan races, which I think is the most ridiculous thing in the world. But being as it may, be that as it may, it doesn't change the fact of what's happened here. So the 99th District Court is headed up by Judge Philip Hayes. Philip Hayes, folks, West Texan. He graduated from Tech. He has 2 degrees from Texas Tech. So you know what Philip Hayes is going to do here? He's going to recuse himself because he has a brain. That's why. This was the right move. Make no mistake about it. He should have recused himself. He did recuse himself. Good on Philip Hayes. That's a nonpartisan issue. And if this judge was a Democrat, I'd give him the exact same praise. and I'd have the exact same opinion. So since he called to recuse himself, a retired judge from the Dallas-Fort Worth area is going to take over. And that retired judge is Ken Curry. Ken Curry hears all these arguments there, and back in the early part of June, and then just this week on June 8th, was the ruling made, and this is the ruling. Again, I'm taking it right from Don Williams' piece here. He says, this court finds that the applicant, meaning Brendan Sorsby, has demonstrated that he will suffer a probable, imminent, and irreparable injury if this court does not issue his temporary injunction. Because he will be unable to participate as a member of Texas Tech University's 2026 football team, including Tech's 2026 football season, and benefit from the elite coaching, training resources, camaraderie, regimen that belong to D1 teams, build the necessary skills to maximize his own success during the college football season, as well as that of Tech's football team and each of his players, and make an informed decision regarding whether to enter the 2026 NFL supplemental draft. Curry wrote that Sorsby's team has also demonstrated the right on the injunction based on his claims for breach of contract, declaratory judgment, and breach of good faith and fair dealing, and breach of fiduciary duty. The NCAA, where all that comes from, is at again, going back to Williams's report, the NCAA had declared Sorsby permanently ineligible because he acknowledged violations of the rules that are prohibited, and it's gambling. All right. A May 29th court filing showed that Sorsby made at least $90,000 in impermissible wagers since 2022. And I went through all that with you just a little bit earlier. As conditions of granting the injunction, Curry ordered Sorsby to continue clinical counseling individually, participate in peer support through Gamblers Anonymous or a comparable mutual aid community and commerce, and continue treatment for his diagnosed anxiety order. Sorsby's counsel must file monthly reports attesting to his compliance with the terms and detailing his activities the previous month. Let's also note that he's also suspended for 2 games. As soon as the ink didn't even dry on this ruling, when the NCAA filed an immediate appeal in Amarillo's 7th District Court, and they're hoping for that to be accelerated. That this appellate court will hear this case before the first kickoff. Okay. So that's the whole Sorsby drama. That's the whole thing behind it. And college football world has just gone crazy. And one thing that I think is just fantastic here is that Don Williams wrote another column. And in this piece, and y'all need to check this out at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Sorsby makes a fair not Sorsby, sorry. Williams makes a fair comparison of Sorsby to Paul Hornung and Alex Karras about how Commissioner Pete Rozelle in the NFL suspended Paul Hornung and Alex Karras for betting on NFL games and associating with gamblers. Suspended them for a year. It was indefinitely, but it turns out that it was just going to be for a year. Paul Hornung and Karras, these are some of the best that the NFL had at that time. These guys are in their were in the early 60s, late 50s. Some of the best football players around. Horning and Akaris each were suspended for what wound up being the entire 1963 season, and a full year was appropriate for them. And Brendan Sorsby should have been suspended for a full year too. That's Williams, and I'm agreeing with him. I'm going to quote Williams here. For a pattern of sports gambling throughout his college career, Sorsby got a 2-game suspension this week from a judge who granted Sorsby a temporary injunction that trumped the NCAA's declaring him permanently ineligible. And here's the key point that Williams makes. That's too light. It's too light because not a small number of college athletes got a different message on Monday, June 8th. Than the one their coaches and compliance officers have been hammering them since the day they showed up on campus. You've told us over and over in every team meeting on countless PowerPoint presentations, we can't gamble. This judge just told us that we can gamble with near impunity if we make the right argument to the right judge. 100%. 100%. Williams is 1,000% correct on this. Make no mistake about it. Nail hit on head. But what we have seen is an immediate explosion of hate coming at Texas Tech and at Lubbock. And I think there's a choice to be made here. All right. And the choice that needs to be made is, what is Tech going to do about all this? A lot of those people in the administration have kind of made their stance already. That they're going to support Sorsby and they're going to let him carry out this 2-game suspension and then let him play the rest of the season. There was a small conversation that perhaps head coach Joey McGuire said, I don't know if week 3 is going to do it for him. But that said, the NCAA, the college football world, has a whole different perspective on this. The ruling triggered immediate and intense reactions across college sports. And ESPN really captured much of the national backlash. And here's one report from ESPN here. It says ACC Commissioner, the Atlantic Coast Conference Commissioner Jim Phillips told ESPN that the ruling represents a horrendous pattern that is eroding the integrity of our process. A Big 12 athletic director told ESPN that they're disgusted and added, we officially lost our soul. Texas Christian University, commonly referred to as TCU, their football coach Sonny Dykes, who has direct connections to Texas Tech, told ESPN, how is anyone ever going to trust the outcome of a game again? In a memo to staff, Georgia, the University of Georgia, forbade its school's teams from playing Texas Tech, as per the document obtained by ESPN. Florida, their AD, Scott Strickland, told ESPN that he was stunned, even recalling Major League Baseball's 1919 Black Sox scandal, when 8 players from the Chicago White Sox took bribes to lose the 19 World Series to the Cincinnati Reds. These reactions illustrate how quickly the ruling escalated national tensions and focused them towards Texas Tech. Furthermore, there were several athletic directors across the country reportedly expressed strong reluctance to schedule Tech in regular season play. As I mentioned to you earlier about Georgia, throw in Nebraska. They're not going to play Tech. And then we've seen a recent report about the Big Ten Conference. None of their teams may want to play Tech. I mean, we're talking, Indiana, we're talking Michigan, Ohio State, Rutgers. I know everyone is very fearful about Rutgers. Michigan State, UCLA, USC. They're all saying nah. Wisconsin, Minnesota, you get it. Even Big 12 conferences rivals TCU and Kansas State have reportedly discussed avoiding Tech in future scheduling. While the Wildcats, that's Kansas State, does not play Tech this year, they may ask to never face them again in the regular season. Look, these comments were provided to ESPN, so I want you to understand I'm not just making this stuff up. The NCAA filed an appeal, and we'll see how quickly that will be done. Because it can be accelerated. If it's not going to be accelerated, the appeal will be heard in February when the college football season is over. But amid the chaos, one conclusion is clear. And this is the whole point that I'm trying to make here. And I'm going to hammer this. In the eyes of the college sports world, Texas Tech emerged as the villain. College sports has a villain, and the villain is Texas Tech. Texas Tech Regent Board Chair Cody Campbell reinforced that perception with a tone-deaf statement on Sorsby's ruling. This is the quote that he gave. "This unfortunate situation is the outcome of a broken system. I'm doing everything I can to fix it, but until there's a permanent solution, Texas Tech and its student athletes have to do the best they can to navigate and compete amid the chaos that exists in the reality of the world we live in." Regent Chair Campbell then continued that sentiment by criticizing NCAA President Charlie Baker for the Sorsby situation on the social media network X. Here's the whole gist of Campbell's argument. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. His assessment isn't far off. The NCAA did create a lot of this problem. Make no mistake about it. My issue that I have with Campbell is his remarks, and the manner that he made these remarks is highly questionable. His argument is essentially, don't hate the player, hate the game. That's not exactly the right message at the right time. Okay? In this moment, restraint would have been the better option as opposed to damning the torpedoes or going to the mattresses. That's not really the best thing he should have done here. He just should have kept quiet. Compounding this issue, the chairman publicly commented about wanting to schedule UT. He wants to schedule Texas in a response to perceived slights. Those remarks appeared impulsive at best and unprofessional at worst. And there was a back and forth there. Head coach of UT, Steve Sarkisian, made a passive aggressive comment, said that there's a team that that's in our state that plays in another conference, and if we had to play their schedule, we could beat their schedule with our second and third string teams. And Campbell, just goes all unhinged and just says, well, then schedule us, in so many words. That's what happened with that. Head coach Joey McGuire's agreement with Chair Campbell that UT should schedule Tech in week 1 of the season only amplified the little brother perception. I mean, look, Texas Tech cares more about the UT game than UT. Texas doesn't care that much about Texas Tech. It has a long record of just beating up on Texas Tech. Now, if you want to go back to the last 5 times that Tech and UT played, it might be a little bit closer. But all in all, UT doesn't think that much about Texas Tech. UT cares a lot more about A&M. UT cares a little bit more about Oklahoma. But they don't really care that much about Tech. I mean, that's right. That's why Chris Beard was not that big of a pickup for UT. I mean, when they got Chris Beard as their head coach, UT basketball fans were going, who? Why him? What difference does this make? What's he going to do? They were not excited about that. They're Chris who? So there is very much a little brother perception that Tech has when we talk about UT. And you see me looking back here. Just a little quick side note. I keep looking back here because my dog is back here and she likes to get my attention at times. So that's what that's about. Back into it here, McGuire agreed with Campbell's statement. Well, yeah, they should go ahead and schedule. So let's go ahead and get it. Let's get it on the schedule there. We'll pay out Abilene Christian. We'll pay them the $1 million to get them off the schedule. Let's go ahead. Let's get you all on. Let's play it up right now. I think he may regret that stance now since his star quarterback will be out for at least 2 games, and they'll be at the start of the season. But the fact he went along with the idea puts him alongside Chair Campbell as a bad guy. And then we got Brendan Sorsby himself, who is the face of this controversy. Because for at least 6 road games, he and the Red Raiders will be booed loudly and enthusiastically. They're going to travel into these hostile territories. They're going to get booed out of the building. They'll be walking into a chorus of boos throughout the entire game. And look, folks, this classification should come as no surprise. The actions of Tech's leadership, combined with the national reaction, have placed the Red Raiders squarely as the heel. They're the bad guys. And instead of denying it or downplaying the villain label, here's what Tech needs to do. They should not only expect it, but they should accept and embrace it as their new role. So let teams, on those 6 road games, let those teams play Kenny Rogers' hit song "The Gambler" when Tech, when Tech is warming up. Let's replace Raider Red's white hat with a black hat. And throughout the season, Tech should never wear the white helmet or uniforms. Don't ever don the white, because the white means you're a good guy. We're not good guys anymore. Tech isn't the good guy. Tech's the bad guy. They should only be in black and scarlet. Dress in all black, dress in all scarlet, dress in black and scarlet. Don't don the white. And here's what I would like to say to Brendan Sorsby. You should embrace the Gambler as your nickname. Embrace it. Roll with it. Be the villain. But there's a price with that. A villain's blood runs cold. You must remember. And to truly be the villain, you got to win. And Tech won the Big 12 championship last year. They're top dog. They're sitting in the catbird seat until someone kicks them out of it. Make no mistake about it. But if you really want to be the villain here, Tech, you got to run the table in this football season. You got to run that table. I mean, let's also remember, folks, that in Tech, that in the NCAA college softball season, there were teams explicitly who did not schedule Texas Tech this past season because they did not want them to have a high ranking. Let's not forget, Florida did not come out to shake the hands of Texas Tech when Tech beat them. Didn't shake their hands. Some bad blood there. So this whole villain gimmick has already been cast. Why are we trying to fight it? You got to win now. Tech, you got to realize you are the villain. You're the bad cowboy. And so you got to win it all. The 2026 season has to end with Tech 13-0. Have to be. And then you get into the college football playoff. That is if the college football playoff lets you in. Now, that would be a really tough thing for that committee to not admit a major conference champion and an undefeated team into the playoff. That'd be a really tough thing. I mean, how do you rationalize that? You don't. But if Tech doesn't win at all, every team, every athletic director, every Tech hater online, every born Tech hater, every single hate that Lubbock gets, all of them are going to feel vindicated. All of the people who have said negative things about Tech and this, because of this judgment, because of this injunction, because of this Sorsby drama, they're all going to feel vindicated if you don't win. So here's how you prove them all wrong. You win football games. You win basketball games. You beat them. Like it or not, folks, Texas Tech athletics. This is what I'm saying to you. You are the villain of college sports. Now what will you do with that identity? I like to remind people who often forget about late 80s NBA basketball. Called the Detroit Pistons, led by Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is one of the best point guards who ever stepped on the basketball court. Make no mistake about it. Bona fide Hall of Fame player, just simply one of the best. If you're going to talk about best point guards, Isaiah Thomas has to be in your top 3. That said, Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, John Sally, Anthony Mason. These guys were what was called the bad boys. And they got called bad boys. People didn't want to play them because Bill Laimbeer played dirty. He didn't care. But here's what the bad boys did. They went to 3 NBA finals, 88, 89, and 90. And they won the championship in 89 and 90. The Detroit Pistons is the little spoiler between Bird and Magic and Bird, and Michael Jordan. You cannot forget about the bad boys and the Pistons. And Jordan will tell you this. He says it in interviews. Their run in the 90s would not have happened if it wasn't for the bad boys. If it wasn't for them. So let's just face the fact here. Thomas, Laimbeer, who, by the way, I can't stand. I mean, there's a few plays I like to look back on, and Bird gives Laimbeer a giant right cross, and he deserved it. Bill Laimbeer deserved every negative thing that ever happened to him on the court. Okay, I don't know the man personally. It sucks that he went to Notre Dame, but whatever. That said, John Sally, Dennis Rodman, Joe Dumars, one of the best shooting guards, one of the best defensive players These guys owned up. They owned up to it. They said, bring it on. They didn't care about being the bad guy. They didn't care about being the villain. They embraced it. That's what tech needs to do. The whole place hates you. The whole place is going to boo you. Lubbock's going to cheer you. Lubbock's going to cheer you and root for you. And for those 6 games that you're not in Lubbock, and those 6 games that you're in Fort Worth and Arlington for TCU, or you're in wherever else that you're going, yeah, boos galore, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Own it and win, folks. I don't usually talk sports on here, and I'm usually more of a political guy. I do like sports. Okay, I do enjoy talking sports, and this is not a sports podcast, but this issue with Brendan Sorsby has transcended into politics because the NCAA this issue has been going on for some time. And the NCAA is not the only one with this. Major League Baseball has this issue, but they've had stiffer penalties. NBA has, all that. And all these leagues make money off of gambling. They make money off of it. So how are you going to tell a young student who may never play a game, don't gamble? But at the same time, you're going to make money off others who do gamble. That is hypocrisy to the nth degree, folks. And that's the type of stuff that we can't have. So the NCAA's got to make some sort of a issue here. I mean, I don't know if the Cruz can't regulation over college sports is really going to do anything with this. I mean, Senator Cruz is, he often likes to talk a big game no matter what he's doing. Growing a mullet, it's a big thing for him. Going to Cancun, that's a big thing for him. Going to Greece, that's a big thing for him. He may even say going to the bathroom is a big thing for him. I don't know. But I just don't know if that legislation is going to solve the problem that we're seeing here. Now, the thing about legislation is while it doesn't cover that at that moment, what you can do is investigate it and then reform it. That's what you do with legislation. You may not cover everything at some time because of compromise, but later on you come back and you cover your tracks. You fill in that donut hole. That's the idea. But I don't know if that's really going to be the big thing. So, I hate to say this, and everyone hates it whenever I do, even myself. But time's going to tell on this. Something has to be done. Cantwell-Cruz bill is a step in the right direction. I don't know everything in that bill, but I think it's a good start. That said, this is all the NCAA's fault. The NCAA, they are the true culprits of all this. Brendan Sorsby is a symptom of the problem. And until the NCAA gets a hold on the transfer portal, gets a hold on the NIL, and gets a hold on gambling, we're going to see more of this. And the reason people hate tech so much is that they figured out how to play this game. And look, as I said earlier, Cody Campbell's not wrong when he said, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." I mean, he didn't say that, but that's essentially what his argument is. Hey, don't get mad at me because I'm playing the game. You're just mad because you didn't do what I did. But my point being here is that you don't have to be a jerk face about this sort of stuff. And it doesn't help. Last thing, and I'm just going to repeat this here. Tech, again, you are the bad guy. Now go win football games and prove everybody else wrong and make them eat the fact that you're the bad guy. A villain's blood runs cold. All right, folks, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for listening or watching to the Outsider Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, and look, as I've said this in previous episodes, and I'll keep saying this, I have an open mic policy. I'll talk to anybody. I mean, you got a kimono dragon that can talk. Hey, let's get him on the show. I'll gladly get that out there. But for real, I'll talk to anybody. And if they want to come on here, we can make it happen, and we can have we can have some fun with all this. But how you do that is you shoot me an email at drew.landry9@gmail.com. That's drew.landry9@gmail.com. There's the visualization wherever I put it. And put in the subject heading podcast guest inquiry, or just podcast guest. Tell me tell me when you want to be on. Tell me what you want to talk about, when you can do it, and we'll figure everything out from there. I'm always down for talking to people. Doesn't matter who you are or what you do or any of that stuff. So I'm always down for it. Again, folks, thank you so much for listening and or watching. And I'll see you again very, very soon.
The preceding analyses and opinions were that of Drew Landry and his alone. They did not necessarily reflect all of his podcast listeners or newsletter readers. Thank you for listening to the Outsider Podcast. Be sure to follow The Outsider on X and on Facebook. Also, don't forget to sign up to be a free subscriber to his newsletter on Substack. Just look for The Outsider. We will see you again next time.